All right, just waiting for the video to kick on because I never know with YouTube. All right, there it is. What's up, guys? This is Bumpkins, and I'm here with Comics Daily Weekly number 24. Today I'm going to be talking about Marvel Comics from July 1968. So real quick, if you don't know what Comics Daily Weekly is, basically I run two accounts at underscore Comics Daily on Twitter and underscore Comics Daily IG on Instagram. Basically what I do is every day I read one or two comics, Marvel comics from the Silver Age, and I read 1 month's worth of publication every week. So like I said, this week we'll be talking about comics from July 1968. Last week we talked about comics from June 1968. Next week we'll be doing August 1968. And the goal is to experience some of these Marvel comics as they came out back in the day. Obviously, we're not reading everything. I'm not reading Thor, X-Men, Submariner, some of that stuff. But I am reading about anywhere between 8 and 10 titles a week. And again, just experiencing these as they come out, or experiencing as they came out. So we can see the first appearance of new characters. We can see new creative teams come on board. We can see relationships established, relationships crumble, that kind of thing. So I know a lot of these classic stories, but I have never read all of these issues one by one straight through. So that's the goal, and it's been pretty fun so far. So real quick, I'll let you know what comics we'll be talking about this week. Amazing Spider-Man number 62 and Daredevil number 42. Iron Man number 3, Captain America number 103, Incredible Hulk number 105, Avengers number 54, Fantastic Four number 76, Captain Marvel number 3, Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 2, and the Spectacular Spider-Man magazine. It was like a magazine-sized issue, 64 pages. Number 1 of that. There were 2. We'll be talking about the next one in a couple weeks, but we're doing the first issue of that today. So that's actually 10 books. It's the most books I've ever talked about on one episode, and I try to not let these things go longer than an hour. So let's get right into it with Amazing Spider-Man number 62. Guys, you know that Amazing Spider-Man, since I started doing this, Amazing Spider-Man has been my favorite title that I've read. I think it's the most fun. I think it's the most action-packed. It's got the best characters. It's got the best development. All of that stuff. The best art. All of that stuff. 62 issues in, and we finally hit the most ridiculous issue yet. Well, that makes it sound like all the other ones are ridiculous. We finally hit a ridiculous issue of Amazing Spider-Man. Let me put it to you this way. Spider-Man versus Medusa. And the whole thing, let me tell you this. So Medusa comes to New York to see if humans are still afraid of Inhumans. So she's sort of on a fact-finding mission around New York. And she encounters Spider-Man, and they tussle a little bit of a misunderstanding, and she leaves. But this guy right here, you can see this guy with the mustache and the purple jacket, he is a hairspray executive. He sees Medusa flying by with her flowing locks. You guys know Medusa can control her hair. He wants her to be the new model, the new spokesmodel for his brand of hairspray. He gets her attention. She sort of reluctantly agrees. She agrees because she thinks it's going to be a good way to sort of mix in with humans a little bit to see if they're still scared of her. And she shoots a commercial, and there's something else that's more notable that I'll talk about in a minute. She shoots a commercial, she gets irritated, she smashes up the set. Spider-Man swings by, the hairspray executive says, "Spider-Man, come here, Medusa attacked us." She didn't really attack him. So in this panel, he actually made it look like she did more damage than she actually did. The whole reason he wants to do this is so Spider-Man will go after Medusa. He can get footage of it, and as he says, history will record this as Hairspray's finest hour. And so the rest of the issue is Spider-Man and Medusa fighting. It's a big misunderstanding. Spider-Man was duped by this hairspray executive. And as usually happens when two heroes fight, at the end they realize that it's silly that they're fighting. As Spider-Man realizes that he's been duped. Medusa flies away. The campaign backfires. And I don't even know what to say about this. Like, this is just ridiculous. All these stories have been pretty good so far, and then this guy, a hairspray executive, wants Medusa to be their spokesmodel, tricks Spider-Man into attacking her so that he can... I don't really know how he was planning to use that, but the notable thing in this issue is that, and we saw hints of it last issue, is that Norman Osborn is coming closer and closer to getting his memories of being the Green Goblin back. See up here, he's got, he's having a little bit of a flashback. He doesn't know why. He doesn't know yet that he was the Green Goblin. But he's having memory flashes of the Green Goblin, and he sees Spider-Man, but he can't see Spider-Man's face. So he still doesn't remember that Peter is Spider-Man. He doesn't remember that he was the Green Goblin. So that is something that's developing that we'll see more of in the Spectacular Spider-Man magazine that we'll be talking about in a little bit, eventually leading to his return as the Green Goblin. But right now we're just getting little nuggets of that. But outside of that, Spider-Man and Medusa tangling it up, all because of a hairspray executive. I made a note that human and inhuman relations are possibly made worse because of a hairspray executive. This one was probably honestly, this one was my least favorite of all 62 Amazing Spider-Man issues that we've read so far, just because the story was beyond silly. So it was a one and done, and we are going to move on from this one. We're going to move into Daredevil number 42. So if you remember last issue, we're finally done with Mike Murdock. Daredevil staged it where he made it look like Daredevil died in the explosion. Doomsday Clock sucks. What? Hey, Alexander, how's it going? Oh, Doomsday Clock. I haven't read Doomsday Clock yet, but I'm going to. Do you hate Doomsday Clock? I've never read it. I haven't read it yet, but I want to. So Daredevil made it look like Daredevil died in an explosion last issue, thus killing off Mike Murdock, which is the single dumbest thing in all of comics. Do not read Doomsday Clock. Okay, I'll get around to it. I like to form my own opinion, but I may not like it either. We'll see. I feel like I need to read it in order to inform my opinion on sort of what happened, sort of how they're reshaping the DC universe a little bit, but I'll get there. I subscribe to DC Universe, so I'll just read it on that. I won't have to buy it or anything. So this issue of Daredevil features a new villain called the Jester, which I actually kind of thought could have been pretty cool. And I know that he actually pops up in several more issues after this that we'll get to. But it's basically sort of a trope of a lot of comics from this era, especially like Daredevil comics and Spider-Man comics, where this villain, the Jester, his origin is he trained in the circus, and he studied fencing, and he studied acrobatics, and he studied swordplay and gimmicks and that kind of stuff. So, I kind of feel like I kind of feel like this maybe could have been Daredevil's Joker, if you will. And I know that it may seem like I'm saying that because, Jester and the Joker, but I kind of feel like they could have done some cool stuff with him. But in this issue, he doesn't really do a whole lot. So this is interesting, though, because I wish I had read the Spectacular Spider-Man magazine that we'll be talking about in a bit. I wish I'd read that first, because this issue features Raleigh, Richard Raleigh, who is a guy who is running for mayor of New York. And we get a lot more of his backstory in the Spectacular Spider-Man magazine that we'll get to in a minute. But he's running for mayor, but he doesn't want Foggy Nelson to run as district attorney. So he actually hires, I guess, he requisitions the services of the Jester to take out Foggy Nelson so that Foggy won't run for district attorney. And of course, so he attacks Foggy in the park. Matt and Karen are there. And of course, this leads to Daredevil and the Jester mixing it up, fighting. And that's pretty much the rest of the issue. The two of them fight. He's kind of silly. He's bouncing all over the place because, again, he trained in the circus, which means you're automatically able to fight well. And, swordsmanship and things like that. He's got yo-yos and gimmicks. And you can see, up here, he's using all kind of tricks. And he defeats, or he gets away from Daredevil at the end using the old marble trick where he throws marbles on the floor and Daredevil, sort of trips over him. And he gets away. So like I said, he actually pops up in not the next issue of Daredevil, which I read yesterday, but a handful, maybe 2 or 3 issues after that. So he stays around a little bit. I don't recognize him from modern comics, so I don't know if he comes back maybe in the 70s or something like that, which we're getting close to. But that's sort of the point of reading comics this way, so that we can see if characters stick around. But I mean, there wasn't much in this issue, although if you'll notice this panel, he says, Raleigh, he's dead. In the order of books, in the order that I read these books this week, I read this first. I'd never heard of Richard Raleigh. I never heard of this guy running for mayor. All of a sudden, he popped up in Daredevil at the beginning, and then at the end, he's dead. So, but we will get more of that near the end of this episode when we talk about that Spectacular Spider-Man magazine. So, like I said, I should have read that one first, but it is what it is. So basically, just Daredevil fighting the Jester, who tried to take out Foggy Nelson, and that's it. So next issue is kind of cool. Captain America, Daredevil and Captain America. It's always fun when they tangle, when they mix it up. I read that one yesterday. Posted about it on these two accounts yesterday, and we'll talk about it next week. All right, moving on to Iron Man number 3. This one, this one deals with the problem that I have with a lot of Iron Man comics up till now, especially a lot of the earlier ones in Tales of Suspense, almost all the way through the end of Tales of Suspense. So you guys know that over the last couple weeks, I've been talking about how now that Iron Man is broken out into his own series, it feels like he's backsliding a little bit into some of the old tropes that I thought we had got away from. And Iron Man Sucks, the Japanese cyberpunk body horror movie Tetsuo. What? Wait, what? I don't think I've seen that. Are you talking about Tetsuo from Akira? I've not heard of that before. I like Iron Man, though. That's okay, though. Everybody has their favorites and their non-favorites. But I've been talking about in this story, in this book, he's been sort of backsliding a little bit into... I'm running out of power. Every fight, I'm running out of power. The shrapnel's getting closer to my heart. I'm having a heart attack because my suit doesn't have any more power to keep the magnet from getting the shrapnel and all that stuff. So, he finally addresses that in this issue. Tony says, look, this suit of armor that I've been wearing for a while, it's not cutting it. I need better armor. I need armor with more power. Now, it starts off with this cool rescue scene, and it just about drains him. He has to. He's so out of juice, and his armor is so antiquated that he can't leave his lab. He has to stay. You can see here. I'm not he has to keep it. He has to keep plugged into his chest, right? He can't leave because even if he unplugs, the suit does. It's just done, right? So he designs a new set of armor, and it looks, if this were modern comics, if he said, I really have to have a new set of armor, if this were modern comics, the armor would look different. But this doesn't look any different, but it is a new suit of armor. So he designs a new suit of armor in order to generate and be able to store the power that he needs, new technology and all that. But he's not able to build it because he can't unplug himself, right? Well, Happy and Pepper, who we haven't seen in a while, they read that that something's happened to Iron Man. Stark in seclusion, Playboy industrialist becomes recluse. They know something larger is afoot, right? They know something else is at play, so they go to help him. So they get there. Keep in mind, Pepper doesn't know that Tony is Iron Man, but Happy does. The MCU is overrated garbage. It ruined Hollywood and inspired trash like DC Rebirth. I don't know about that. I like the MCU, except for Iron Man 3. I don't like Iron Man 3. I don't think it's overrated, though. I like it. But to each his own. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I don't think it inspired DC Rebirth, though. I think just the New 52 just wasn't working. They tried it for 5 years, from 2011 to 2016. Sales weren't good. I didn't think the books were great in the New 52, and DC said we gotta fix this. So in came Rebirth. Rebirth was a lot better. And I mean, it's not perfect still, but I thought Rebirth was better. They started to fix the problems that the New 52 brought on. But back to Iron Man. So Happy, he knows that Tony is Iron Man, so he agrees to help Tony build his new suit of armor. And again, it looks the exact same. Now, Tony is going to bombard this thing with some kind of these like cobalt rays. He uses something called this cobalt bombarder. We can force molecules of copper to fuse with the armor's iron, creating a permanent thermocouple. And this is important, I'll then be able to draw electrical current from intense heat or cold. Remember that for next issue that I just read a little while ago and posted about right here. So keep that in mind. Because I think that is going to be the answer for... I'm crossing my fingers that I'll be able to draw electrical current from intense heat or cold. I'm hoping that that's what gets us out of the tired trope of every battle. I'm out of power. I can't go on. I'm having a heart attack. How am I going to stop this guy? I'm hoping that gets us out of that. So, but the way he does that is to use this machine. And it's very sensitive. And don't forget, Happy is doing all this, right? Happy's actually doing all the manual work here. And it's you got to keep it at an intense, a steady intensity, he says. You've got to hold the ray still, all that kind of stuff. Well, Happy is sort of in a rush because Tony is literally dying, right? He's got to hurry it up. And boom, right here. He gets zapped with this machine, right? Which then has the unfortunate side effect of turning him back into the Freak, which we saw in Tales of Suspense number 74. So yeah, this guy is Happy. Whoops. Happy Hogan. That didn't zoom in right. That guy right there is Happy Hogan. And of course it turns him into sort of a mindless brute, if you will. Oh, let me get that back. All right. And then the rest of this is, Tony/Iron Man in his new armor trying to stop the Freak. And that's not me saying that, that's his name right there. The Freak. That's what they call him. I don't know why. So Iron Man's trying to stop the Freak. But knowing that it's Happy, he doesn't want to hurt him. The Freak grabs Pepper because even though he doesn't really know who he is, he feels drawn to Pepper, obviously because Happy and Pepper are married. And there's a pretty cool fight sequence in this these girders, this steel scaffolding, this building is being built. And Iron Man again is trying to figure out how do I stop Happy without hurting him, without him hurting Pepper, that kind of stuff. And he's able in the end to trick him, to get him into this, I think it's an ambulance. He tricks him into an ambulance, fills it up with gas, Happy's knocked out, and I thought that was it. We actually see him cure Happy at the beginning of next issue. The next issue isn't what that's about, but we do see that at the beginning of next issue. So this one was, it was decent, but it's notable for this that armor you see right there, that's new armor, even though it doesn't look new. That's new armor, new technology. It's going to enable him to draw power from heat and cold when he's out of juice. So hopefully, and he uses it next issue, spoiler alert. So hopefully that's going to get us over the trope of I'm out of power and I can't go on. So bravo, if that's the case, then bravo for this issue, because I hate that trope. All right, so we're going to move on to Captain America number 103. I about had a fit when I read this, and I'm going to show you why. So this one is still heavy on the Red Skull, heavy on Cap, heavy on Agent 13. I don't want to get to it. Okay, it's on the next page. So I have talked about Captain America and Agent 13 for weeks on end now, and how it's ridiculous that Cap and Agent 13 are in love with each other, and yet Cap still doesn't know Agent 13's real name. There's been several times where Agent 13 has even said, I can't believe that I have these feelings for you and you don't even know my real name. I can't believe that we've done this and that together and you don't even know my real name. And all the while, she's never actually told Cap her real name. And I'm just like screaming. When I'm reading this on my iPad, I'm screaming, saying, just tell him your name. But then I sort of theorized, well, maybe she doesn't quite know how, because in the comics, not the movies, in the comics, she is Peggy Carter's niece. In the movie, she's Peggy's granddaughter. In the comics, she's Peggy's niece. And maybe she doesn't know how to break that to Cap. Maybe she's afraid that Cap will say, well, I was in love with Peggy. I would feel like I'm betraying her if I fell in love with her niece. I don't know. I mean, that was never brought up, but that's just what I was hypothesizing about why she wouldn't tell Cap her name. And I knew that eventually it was going to happen. At some point, Cap is going to find out that she's Sharon Carter. So, and in the description on the Marvel Unlimited app for this, it actually mentioned her by name. So I thought, oh boy, this is the issue where it happens. Finally, after months, weeks and months of Cap not knowing Agent 13's name, we're finally going to get it. I swipe the page and I get this panel that says, it's a pleasure to finally call you by your real name, Sharon Carter, rather than Agent 13. And that's it. Like, that's all. Like, we don't get a scene where she actually says, you know, Steve, I'm ready to tell you, my name is Sharon Carter. I'm Peggy's niece. And we don't get to see his reaction to that. That could have been such a big story point. There could have been several pages about that. Instead, this moment that I've been waiting for dozens of issues, not dozens, maybe a couple dozen issues, and then I've been waiting for weeks and months. It all happened in between issues so that we don't ever even see it. And there's no acknowledgement in this entire issue about, does Steve even know that she is Peggy's niece? Does it matter? I was just flabbergasted. There's nothing about any of that. It's just all, you know, and it makes me wonder if Stan Lee maybe didn't know who he wanted her to be. No, that's not true, because I think he wouldn't have dropped so many hints. I don't know. But I was just infuriated that I mean, I'm glad that he knows her name now, but it's just crazy that there's been so much buildup over so many issues from in Tales of Suspense to now, and we never even got to see it. And we never even got to see his reaction or anything like that. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe I'm, you know, this is from 1968. Comics weren't quite as cerebral back then as they are now, I guess. They weren't quite as deep, which is okay, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just used to modern comics, and that's, you know, that they would have done something like that if this were a modern book. But anyway, so I got super irritated with that. But the rest of this book is the Red Skull. Wait a minute, what did I do here? There we go. Wait a minute, I took it out of full screen. There we go. So the Red Skull at the end of last issue realizes that Sharon Carter means a lot to Captain America, and he kidnaps her. And the whole rest of the issue is Steve Rogers, you know, breaking into the Red Skull's base and rescuing Sharon Carter, and that's pretty much it. So it's a cool issue of Captain America. Like I said, that's a cool, you know, Jack Kirby Cap. I mean, that's awesome, right? So, you know, we get a lot of cool action pieces with Cap breaking into the base, taking out a bunch of Red Skull's goons, and him and Sharon escaping. And we're left with a cliffhanger where there's an look at this right here, guys. Oh wait, that didn't zoom in right. Let me zoom it in this way. I mean, Jack Kirby is the master of just like making you feel the impact. I mean, when you see that, when you swipe the page and you see this right here, I mean, I feel like I can feel him hitting that guy and that guy going sailing off into a wall or something. So Jack Kirby is so great at that. And there's so many. I mean, this next panel, I mean, there's so many of these that that we get throughout all of these issues. It's so cool. But yeah, there's a cliffhanger where they do escape and they manage to get on a plane and they're about to get away, and Red Skull has like a detonator for a bomb that's on the plane, and he planned it all that way, it turns out. And that's very shades of Cap and Bucky in World War II when Bucky jumped on, was it a missile, right? I don't think it was a plane. It was a plane or a missile. And it exploded, and Cap was there too. He fell in the water. Bucky supposedly exploded, and he stayed that way until Ed Brubaker in 2006. But yeah. So I mean, this was really cool. This was very action heavy. I mean, look at this shot. He just knocking the Red Skull around. So this was a fun issue, and I'm glad that the whole mystery of Sharon Carter is done. I just can't believe that we didn't get to actually see it. But yeah, this was a good one. All right, so Incredible Hulk number 105. I didn't ever plan on reading the Hulk. I didn't think I'd really like the old Hulk issues. I haven't even really read that much Hulk in my 30 years of reading comics, except for, the big things like Planet Hulk, World War Hulk, or anytime a Hulk was in a big event. But I never really read all that many just single Hulk issues. And I'm going to fix that. I've got Peter David, the Hulk by Peter David, Volume 2, and I've got Volume 3 pre-ordered as well. So I'm going to fix some of that. But you know what? I like these old Hulk issues. The 103 was silly with the space parasite. I didn't really like that one. But the last issue that we talked about last week, Hulk 104, where he fought the Rhino, that one was super fun. Because I like these Hulk issues because they're not very in-depth. It's just the Hulk trying to get away from everybody who's bugging him, namely the military, and he smashes anything that gets in his way. And that's it. And that's what this issue is too. So this is following up from last issue where he grabs Betty, the military's after him, he's trying to hide out, that kind of thing. Meanwhile, we see that there was like a atomic test over in the East, and I've talked about it before. Marvel back in the day really try not to use like actual country names too much. They do mention China a few times, but mostly they stick with our enemies in the East, or behind the red curtain, behind the bamboo curtain. They say those kinds of things, so they don't have to be specific about who they're talking about, except with the whole Vietnam Tony Stark thing. But here they just say an atomic test in the East. And it turns this guy into like a radioactive Cro-Magnon man, basically. And he sort of evolves into this pink radioactive monster that they then put in a watercraft and send to the United States so that he will cause havoc throughout America. And then that's their plan, right? He just wants this radioactive creature to smash up New York, basically. And, it's comics, so invariably the Hulk crosses paths with his radioactive monster right here. And they proceed to smash each other. Smash, smash, smash. One cool thing about this, too, is that the Hulk finally stopped talking in both the first and the third person. So he finally is all third person now, Hulk this, Hulk that. Which felt better to read. Like, it's consistency, it's a small thing, but it made it a better read, in my opinion. So it's kind of neat because, normally the Hulk can just smash anything that gets in his way, but this thing, hurts him. Like when he touches him, he burns him because he's so heavy on radiation. And he actually, like I said, most of the issue is just them slugging it out with each other. But there's one point where it has this weird effect on him, and it reverts the Hulk into Banner's body, but the Hulk keeps his brain. So it says Hulk beaten because he suddenly changed to this shape. Where did it come from? Must get my own body so I can get revenge. But he's in Bruce Banner's body with the Hulk brain. I think is what the gist is here. The military steps in. They try to stop him. Obviously, they can't do it because he's this big, hulking brute that's also radioactive that burns even the Hulk when he touches him. And so this is sort of left on a cliffhanger as well, where the Hulk once again, I think the monster, even as the mighty behemoth seizes and crushes the fragile machine. The Hulk changes back to Bruce Banner. I'm a little bit unclear why. So you don't have the big powerful Hulk anymore, and this big radioactive monster is about to pounce on them. And so that's sort of the cliffhanger. But again, this wasn't super in-depth. It was just the Hulk slugging it out with another big monster. And it was really cool. So these books are actually, these old Hulk books, I've been really enjoying those. These are probably my second favorite book that I read every week, or at least the last couple weeks, after Amazing Spider-Man. Although Amazing Spider-Man this week was extremely silly. But this was a good one. I'm enjoying these, and we'll see what happens next issue. So we're going to move on to Avengers number 54. Guys, we're getting close to something big, and I'll show you at the end. But the Avengers in this issue face off against the new Masters of Evil. The new Masters of Evil being, hold on, we'll come back to these pages, Claw, Whirlwind, the Melter, the Black Knight, and Radioactive Man. Now, this issue starts with what appears to be Jarvis sneaking off and turning traitor against the Avengers. So the Avengers have built all these new defenses in Avengers Mansion, and they're testing them out. Jarvis is the only one who, besides the Avengers, Jarvis is the only one who knows about these defenses, who knows how to get around them. And he is actually seen meeting with the new Masters of Evil and this guy, the Crimson Cowl. So remember this guy, because he's going to come up next issue. And he's telling the Crimson Cowl and the new Masters of Evil all about these new defenses that the Avengers have. So, as you might suspect, a lot of this is flashback about the various foes, how they were beaten by members of the Avengers before. Also, Black Knight is sort of undercover with the Masters of Evil, trying to get information that he's going to take to the Avengers to stop him. Of course, they find him out and they take him down. So the rest of the issue is really just the Avengers versus the Masters of Evil, who managed to bypass all their defenses. And at the end of the issue, they get a message from the Crimson Cowl. And I will show you, like I said, this is all just fight between the Avengers, various members of the Avengers and the Masters of Evil. And then they get a video message from the Crimson Cowl, who, what is this? That's Jarvis. Whoop. Is he the Crimson Cowl? What? Look at this panel, though. Beforehand, does that face look a little familiar to you? Now, this just says the Crimson Cowl, who gave us all our orders, was a robot. So you see that the robot is dressed as the Crimson Cowl, and then there's another guy dressed as the Crimson Cowl, who, to my eyes, looks purple or pink. But that face is awful familiar, and they don't name him. They just say the Crimson Cowl who gave us all our orders was a robot. That must be why he stayed seated all the time. Then who was the real Cowl? The one who just unmasked the robot? What? Jarvis? And that's a cliffhanger. So, in 1968, you don't know what's going on. In 2021, you know that robot guy up there turns out to be none other than Ultron. So we're actually going to get to see the first appearance of Ultron next issue, which leads us into the first appearance of Vision. After that, wait, what issue is this? 54? Yeah. So we are very close to Ultron. We're very close to Vision. We're very close to Cap coming back to the team. And I think Thor and Iron Man as well. I think they rejoin pretty soon. So this one was pretty cool, only because of the stories that we're about to get. Like, the Avengers is about to ramp up a little bit. And thank goodness, because it hasn't been great for the entire run so far. But Crimson Cowl. And if you remember, too, in Avengers Age of Ultron, when Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver go to meet Ultron for the first time, and he's got that red, like, cloak on, it's a reference to this. It's a reference to when he first appeared, and he had a crimson cowl on. So that was pretty cool. So next issue that I'll be reading on Thursday, Ultron. So that's going to be... this was a decent issue, but I'm more excited for what it's going to bring us next week. Or this week. And we'll talk about next week. All right, so we're going to move on to Fantastic Four, number 76. This one is the continuation of the story that we've been reading for the last couple of issues, where Galactus hungers. He needs the Silver Surfer to help him find a planet to eat. Of course, he bandaged Silver Surfer to Earth way back in like Fantastic Four number 50, I think it was. But he wants Silver Surfer back. Says, baby, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it, baby. Come back to me. And so he's looking around he's been looking for the Silver Surfer for the last couple of issues. 2 issues ago, he sent his Punisher robot to find the Surfer. The Fantastic Four mixed it up with him. The last issue was all about sort of mixing it up with Galactus himself. And now the Fantastic Four they know where the Silver Surfer has gone, and now they have to go convince him to come back. So they know that the Surfer has actually traveled to the microverse. I don't know that they call it the microverse in this issue, though. What do they call it? The micro world. So they shrink down. Honey, I Shrunk the Fantastic Four is what this issue is. So they travel into the microverse. And it's kind of like if you haven't read the books, or if you're more familiar with the movies, think about Ant-Man. When they talk about the quantum realm, and Ant-Man keeps shrinking smaller and smaller and smaller into basically a whole new universe because it's so small. Well, that's what the Avengers do. And they find the Silver Surfer. They mix it up with him a little bit. That's a cool Jack Kirby Silver Surfer. It doesn't get a lot better than Jack Kirby doing Silver Surfer and all the craziness around him. Sorry guys, 1 second. So, they tangled up with Silver Surfer a little bit. Surfer says, I'm not coming back. But then, if you remember, from one of the Avengers annuals, I don't remember which one. But you remember, I think it was the last one we read. What was it, number 5, I think? I don't remember. But they met a villain named Psycho Man. And it looked like this guy. That's what Psycho Man looks like. But it turns out the Psycho Man that they fought was basically a life-size to them robot that was controlled by Psycho Man who lived in the microverse. So they actually meet him again. And of course, and he wants revenge on the Fantastic Four. He knows that they're in the microverse. He wants his revenge. And, of course, everybody say it with me, because it's the 60s, every villain has a robot or an android, and Psycho Man does as well. So he sends this android out to deal with the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four don't have time for this. They got to get the Silver Surfer back, because Galactus hungers, and if the Silver Surfer doesn't come back to help Galactus find a planet, then Galactus is just going to eat Earth, because it's right there in front of him, right? So they try to, they've got to stop Psycho Man's robot, android. I don't know that they really managed to stop him. so much as Psycho Man just calls him back to the ship. Wait a minute. He's fading, vanishing. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I forgot, guys. I got this one mixed up. See, I got this one, and I made a note of this on Twitter too. That this was a fun story, but we've seen it several times. Most recently, when Reed, Johnny, and Ben fought Galactus' Punisher android. This was pretty much the same story as that. Galactus sends out a robot, says, smash the Fantastic Four. And at the end of that, Galactus calls the android back. That's the Punisher robot. In this one, Psycho Man says, hey, sends a robot out, smash the Fantastic Four. Although this time, the Surfer comes back and basically just makes him disappear with his power cosmic. And the Silver Surfer finally comes to his senses. He says, after overhearing the crisis that brought you here, after witnessing your indomitable gallantry, I realize where the duty of the Silver Surfer lies. So he is going to go back. Presumably, he's going to go back up to the regular size world and go back with Galactus. So this was pretty good, but like I said, we read this same story 2 issues ago. It's just this one took place in the microverse. But yeah, Silver Surfer is going to hook back up with Galactus, and hopefully he'll help Galactus find some other planet to eat besides Earth. And Psycho Man, they're not done with Psycho Man though. Next issue, the power of Psycho Man, as we wonder, shall Earth endure? So we'll see if Earth does indeed endure. All right, so Captain Marvel number 3, for some reason, the Marvel Unlimited site, like on in a browser on the web, doesn't let me open. It says there's no digital issue currently available for Captain Marvel number 3, but I beg to differ because that's how I read all of these, is on Marvel Unlimited. I read them on the app on my iPad, not on the browser, because the browser is awful. It is not good. I mean, I guess unless they just took it down, but Marvel doesn't really take comics down; they just add more. Yeah, so see, I mean, there's I don't know why. So I'm not gonna do this. So I'll just have to sort of tell you what happens here, and it's not a lot. So, last issue, the Skrull Emperor sent Super Skrull, and yeah, again, guys, I'm sorry that you can't really see this, but there's nothing for me to show. I didn't know this until right before let me see if I can at least. That didn't work. Anyway, the Skrull Emperor sent the Super Skrull to Earth to basically figure out, hey, why is this Kree soldier Marvel? Why is he on Earth? What's he doing? And Captain Marvel and the Super Skrull fight, and Super Skrull wins in the end. The big thing, the danger there is that Captain Marvel has this like cylindrical suitcase, if you will, and only he can get into it, but it's tamper-proof. And if anybody tampers with it, it triggers like a 2-hour countdown, which then when it reaches 0, that basically triggers like a nuclear explosion. Well, the guy who owns the hotel that Captain Marvel is staying in while he assumes a human identity, that guy found it and took it to the military, and they tampered with it, and that set the timer off. So at the end of last issue, Super Skrull knocked out Captain Marvel, and his cylindrical suitcase is like an hour away from going nuclear, right? So in this issue, Captain Marvel has to defeat Super Skrull and stop his suitcase from blowing up, and he has like an hour to do. I think they mentioned an hour at some point. So the whole issue, as you could probably guess, is Captain Marvel and the Super Skrull fighting. And I hate that I don't have any we can't flip through the pages. One weird thing about this issue is that, let me get to my notes here real quick, and I'll tell you. 3 pages of this issue, this is what I put on Twitter, 3 pages of this issue were a recap of the first 2 issues. And then Captain Marvel beats the Super Skrull by making him hypnotize himself. So the Super Skrull also has these sort of hypnotizing powers, which I don't know that they address in future issues, like in more modern, like when he pops up in the Fantastic Four, like in the 80s. I don't know if they reference that. But he's going to hypnotize Captain Marvel, but Captain Marvel is able to spin this dish around, this big metal like dish, and Super Skrull hypnotizes himself, which is so stupid. And then Captain Marvel says, while he's hypnotized, Captain Marvel says, "Get off this planet, get out of here," and he does. And Super Skrull leaves, and he stops his suitcase from exploding, and that's it. So yeah, I can't really show you. Let me see if number 4 is even available. Okay, number 4 is. I don't know why 3's not. It's bizarre. I don't know. But that's it. I mean, it's just a big fight between Captain Marvel and the Super Skrull, who has the combined powers of the Fantastic Four. But he wins. He tricks the Super Skrull and he hypnotizes himself. Get out of here. Get off this planet. And that's it. So next issue, I'm a little worried. The next issue I'm reading on Saturday. I'm a little worried because it's got the Submariner, Namor the Submariner, and I do not like Namor. So we'll see how that goes. So we're going to move on to Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 2. This one was I didn't love this one because I am reading Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I want like cool spy stories. But this one, well, the first several pages are Jimmy Woo going through this weird, like, funhouse of death kind of thing, and it turns out it's a big S.H.I.E.L.D. training exercise, and afterwards he gets welcomed to S.H.I.E.L.D. So Jimmy Woo is now part of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he and Nick Fury are going off somewhere, but instead their aircraft goes down, and they find themselves stranded on this weird island, and you can see it here, and Jim Steranko killing it with his pencils and his visual storytelling. I actually watched a really cool video about Jim Steranko yesterday on a really fantastic comic book channel called Comic Tropes. You may or may not have heard of it. It's one of the bigger comic book channels. I don't watch it enough for all the awesome content they have. But they had like a 20-minute video all about Steranko, and it was really good. And a lot of the stuff that he picked up on are things that I've talked about before. Visual storytelling, how Steranko's visual storytelling in these issues and in the issues of Strange Tales that he did were leaps and bounds ahead of anything else that was being done at Marvel or anywhere else in comics at the time. And apparently Steranko and Stan Lee like sort of butted heads about it sometime, which I found interesting. I didn't know that. I would have thought it was the other way, where Stan Lee was encouraging him to be as crazy as he wants, but I guess that wasn't the case. But yeah, Steranko definitely has a style all his own. And I think the reason why Marvel Unlimited only has Nick Fury issues 1, 2, 3, and 5 is because those are the only ones that Steranko drew. And those were the last ones he drew for Marvel for several years until he did 3 issues of Captain America that we're going to get to in a few weeks. But I don't think he did number 4. And he didn't do anything after 5, which is why it's not on Marvel Unlimited. But luckily, I've got the Marvel Masterworks edition digitally on Comixology, so we can keep going through 15. Anyway, sidetrack. Nick Fury, Jimmy Woo find themselves on this island run by this guy. Oh, this doesn't zoom properly either. Never mind. Sorry, guys. That guy over there on the far right in the yellow and the purple, his name is Centurious. And this guy, it turns out that he is a doctor or a scientist that has been on this island since the 30s. And he's been experimenting with genetics. And he says that the Earth is doomed. And the Earth basically needs to die off. Everything on Earth needs to die off so that everything can regrow. So basically, Earth needs to be reset. Is basically what he's saying. So, but he doesn't just want to wait for all that stuff to happen on Earth. He wants to actually destroy everything on Earth himself. And technically he's doing it for the right reasons, because he says that humanity is destroying the Earth and all this stuff, and everything needs to be regrown and restarted, and he's not Probably not necessarily wrong, I guess, especially in the day and age we're in now. But he wants to actually destroy everything, which that's no good, right? So Nick Fury, Jimmy Woo have to stop him. We get awesome. Oh wait, you can't see that. Okay, we get awesome shots like this of his base of his compound, and so it gets weird though because while they're on this island, there is a movie crew filming like a King Kong movie. They don't call it King Kong. I think they just call it Kong. And they encounter like real, what looks like a dinosaur. And Nick Fury actually gets their help in like that. You see Kong right there fighting a big dinosaur? That's like a big robot Kong that's being used in the movie. And all those people in the tree are the filmmakers. So they get in on helping Fury take this guy down. This was a crazy issue. This was sort of bizarre. Jimmy Woo and Nick Fury eventually stop Centurious. He jumps into this thing and devolves himself into protoplasmic slime. Like Jimmy Woo says, Fury, look out! He's jumping into his body changing. He's jumping into his body changing, distorting. He's completing the evolutionary cycle, turning back into a handful of protoplasmic slime. I don't know why he did that. And then the island explodes. And that's it. So Nick Fury, Jimmy Woo, they save the world. They save the world from a madman who wants to destroy it so that it can then be reborn. And we've heard that story a lot. Batman Begins comes to mind when Ra's al Ghul wanted to destroy Gotham so that it could begin anew. Well, that was this, but for the whole world. Sure, I don't read Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. for these kinds of stories, but, so hopefully we'll get more into the spy espionage stuff, because this just felt weird. It just felt weird, but, it's fine. So the last one we're going to talk about this week is this. So this is called the Spectacular Spider-Man. This is not Spectacular This is not, the Spectacular Spider-Man title that started with Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man in 1976. This is not that. This is as you can see at the bottom here, a book-length Super Spidey Spectacular. This was 64 pages. This was in, I don't know if they called it prestige format back then, but more of a like a more square magazine size than a comic size. And it's all in black and white. 64 pages and, black and white, self-contained story. And this is where we get more about this guy on the billboard right there named Richard Richard Raleigh. He's running for mayor of New York. And, everybody loves him. Like, all the citizens love him, and Jonah loves him, and, like, he's a shoo-in for mayor, right? Because everybody loves him. The entire city is smitten with him, I wrote on Twitter. Everyone except Spider-Man and Captain Stacy. Spider-Man has his reservations, and Captain Stacy has his reservations as well. Why is that? Well, the beginning of the issue, this isn't the Hulk, but this big hulking brute comes tearing through Richard Raleigh's billboards, and he tangles it up with Spider-Man. He's really big and strong. He gives Spider-Man a good what for. And it turns out, as we flip through these pages, the long and short of it is that Richard Raleigh actually isn't such an awesome candidate, such an awesome fellow like everybody thinks he is. He is basically staging all these attacks on himself from that big brute, from the mob and things like that, in order to garner sympathy for himself, to make it look like that, vote for me because I'm so tough on crime, as is evident by all these criminals attacking me. All these criminals are attacking me because they know that if I'm mayor, I'm going to be super tough on crime. So you should vote for me. Well, all those attacks are orchestrated by him. He's orchestrating all those attacks on himself. And we learn that, as if you couldn't tell by his face, I mean, John Romita doesn't really draw it subtle, when he's going on TV. He's got this sort of crazy look in his eye in every panel here. He's got the same expression in every panel. He's got this like sort of evil look. But it's confirmed for us when we get to somewhere. Oh yeah. Oh, this was weird too because we get a good bit of Gwen Stacy in this, and in Captain Stacy, Captain George Stacy, and Gwen Stacy is not mad at Peter at all for the events that transpired over in Amazing Spider-Man when Captain Spacey got brainwashed by Kingpin, and it looked like Peter attacked him, even though he attacked Peter first, and then Peter turned in the pictures of Captain Stacy stealing police files to the Bugle, and the Bugle ran a story, and all that stuff. So over in Amazing Spider-Man, even the one that we read, that we talked about tonight, and the one that I read 2 days ago, even then, Gwen is still like super pissed with Peter for doing all that stuff. But here, she's totally cool with it. So the timing is off a little bit. But this is its own self-contained story. This doesn't reference anything else that has happened in any other Amazing Spider-Man story. So whatever. So there's a sequence here where they're at this fundraising dance. And Peter's spider sense goes off, and he knows the ceiling is going to collapse on everybody, so he webs it all together while not wearing his costume. So he had to turn the lights out so nobody could see his face, all that kind of stuff. Here we go. Here's our first real... this doesn't zoom in either. Oh, there we go. Spider-Man prevented the ceiling from crumbling. You brainless bunglers. The plan was perfect. It would have made the entire city believe the underworld was out to destroy Richard Raleigh, the crusading candidate. And that masked interloper must pay for this. Do you hear? So yeah. So that's our first confirmation in this issue that he is not all that he seems. That he's not all cracked up. He's not all that he's cracked up to be. And then we see him going into this underground, this basement laboratory, and we see this. We see him meeting with a scientist who actually manufactured this big hulking brute. So this is the same big guy that Spider-Man fought at the beginning of the issue. Turns out Richard Raleigh had a hand in creating him, or this scientist created him, but they're working together. So you get the idea. So he activates this big thing, and he basically sends him on a quest to get Spider-Man, because now he wants revenge on Spider-Man for wrecking his plans. So as you may imagine, things don't go as planned. The big brute, and I don't think they give him a name, so I'll just call him the big brute. The big brute sort of gets out of control. He has sort of an on-off switch. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. He doesn't send him after Spider-Man. He sends him after Captain Stacy, because Captain Stacy told Peter that he's investigating Richard Raleigh. Captain Stacy is investigating Richard Raleigh. And Peter lets that slip to... I'm sorry. I got that wrong again. Captain Stacy tells Jonah, and Peter, but he tells Jonah that he's investigating Richard Raleigh. Jonah, who then goes and tells Richard Raleigh that Captain Stacy is investigating him. So then Richard Raleigh activates the big brute, sends him after Captain Stacy to kill him, because he's investigating him. But, of course, Peter and Gwen are around when the brute goes and attacks Captain Stacy, so Peter swings in as Spider-Man. He tricks him into... He sort of figures what's going on at this point, and he tricks the big brute into going back to Richard Raleigh's house. So you can see here he's luring him across the city to Richard Raleigh's house, where the brute sort of kind of snaps out of his programming and attacks the scientist and Richard Raleigh. And right there is where Richard Raleigh gets killed, that we then saw in Daredevil. So that's how all that wraps up. So this book relates to Daredevil. It would have been, I mean, if you wanted to read it perfectly, I guess you could have read part of this, then the first half of Daredevil, and then the rest of this, and then the last few pages of Daredevil, and that would have been more the chronological order of things. But Spider-Man is able to defeat this big brute. Richard Raleigh is dead, as we can see his dead hand right there. And that is that. That is a one and done, a 64-page magazine format. There is another one of these, like I said earlier, that I think came out in November, which means we'll get to it in like a month, I think. I don't have it on my schedule yet. Well, maybe I do. Hold on. Yeah, November. It's November 68. We'll be reading that one on February 20th. Is when that one will be posted. So that's it, guys. That's everything that came out in July, or everything that I read that came out in July of 1968. Obviously, it's not everything that Marvel put out, but it's everything that I read from July of 68. Whoops. So, that's that, guys. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about real quick that I've been thinking about for a little while now, and I haven't put anything out on Twitter or anything yet, but I'm going to this week. So, I'm going to sort of change everything. So right now, if you want to follow along with me as I read these, one or two a day, every day, you can follow me at either _comicsdaily or _comicsdailyig on Instagram. You can follow me on one of those, and see what I'm tweeting about them or posting about them or whatever. When I started doing this when I started doing Comics Daily back in May 20th is what it was. I just wanted to read a comic book every day. I just wanted to make sure I read one comic book every day, and I wanted to put something on the internet about it because it was still in the early days of the pandemic. People weren't getting out. People couldn't do anything, and I wanted to do my very, very, very small part in putting something out there for people to enjoy. Maybe encourage people to read a comic book. If we can't go out to movies, if we can't go out to dinner, if we can't get out to parks and things like that, this was my mentality back in May. Then here's some cool comic books that you might want to try out. So I started doing this. I started doing Comics Daily in May and just reading a comic a day, right? And then I started reading. Reading like everything, or not everything, but a lot of things from Marvel from back in the Silver Age, starting with Fantastic Four #1, Amazing Spider-Man #1, all that stuff. And then after a couple months, I wanted to read as much as I could from each month. And like I said at the beginning, I wanted to experience these stories as they were coming out every month back in the day. So I started having a heavy focus on Marvel, but at the time there were only 6 titles I was reading, and there were 7 days a week, which meant that Saturday was sort of a wild card day. I could read whatever. I read 7 to Eternity. I read I can't remember some of the issues, some of the things I've read on a Saturday. But now we are at the point where I am reading more than 7. I think I'm reading like 9 titles a week and posting about all of them on these 2 accounts. And it's starting to be a lot. It's getting these old issues are very verbose. They take a long time to read because they're very wordy. So it's starting to take a lot more time. Not to mention the other videos that I make. I'm back into collecting the physical version of comics and reading all those. So it's taking a lot of time. So now that I have a full focus on Marvel, I don't really have any time to read any extra comics for Comics Daily. So I'm going to turn this into, instead of being Comics Daily, talking about a comic every day, I'm going to turn it into, I don't have the name yet, but I'm going to turn it into specifically Marvel history. I'm still going to read one or more of these every day. But I want to focus more on being a little bit more educational and a little bit less like reviewy, because at the end of, like, usually when I tweet these out, I have like one summary at the end saying I like this or I didn't like this because this was silly or that was silly. And I want to get away from being so much of a review type thing and more like educational. So like, here is what came out, here's this issue of Spider-Man came out July of '68, and here's what happened in it, and that kind of thing. And it takes me a while to write those things too. So I'm probably going to stop being so reviewy and just be a little bit more educational. I'm probably not going to post as many like screenshots and little funny anecdotes and things like that, and just focus more on, here's the issue that came out, here's what it's about. If there's anything notable, like in a couple weeks, we're going to get next we're going to get the first appearance of Vision, or Ultron. We're going to get the first appearance of Vision after that. I'll point that kind of stuff out. But that will help me get through these things a little bit faster, because there's even more and more stuff. So this week, I'm actually adding Silver Surfer to my list of comics that I'm reading. So it's just taken so much time to get through these. As for this show, I started it 25 weeks ago as a way to, I live stream it as a way to, the intent was, I'll live stream a show about comic books, and if people want to come on and we can chat about these books. In all honesty, not really a lot of people watch it. So, and I spend at least an hour every week talking about these things, and nobody really watches the live stream, and nobody really goes back and watches the reruns later. So, but I don't want to stop doing it. I want to keep doing it because I think it's good content. But I think what I'm going to do starting next week is, I don't know that I'm going to live stream these anymore. And I'm going to run through these much quicker. So instead of talking about each issue, going through it and talking about, oh, look at this weird panel, and look at this great art. I think just like what I said, I'm going to go through each book and say, in next week, it'll be in August of 1968. We got Amazing Spider-Man number 63 when Spider-Man fights so-and-so. We also got Daredevil number 43. More of the Jester, and just not talk about them so much, so that I can get through more books. So that if you ever wanted to see a history of Marvel, what's coming out every week, what came out every month, and just a little synopsis about them, you can watch that video. So the goal is to make those actually like 20 minutes instead of an hour. So I don't know that I'm going to live stream this anymore, but I am still going to make the videos and post them, but it might just be pre-recorded. And it'll probably look like this. I have a new logo, a new profile picture that I'll be posting this week, and I'm going to change the name, but I haven't quite nailed it down yet. So, and I know nobody's even here right now watching this, but I wanted to go ahead and put that out there, that I think this actually may be the last time I live stream this show. I would love to have a live stream comic book show where we talk about comics and I interact with the viewers, and maybe we'll get there at some point. But I don't think this is that, because I don't think there's a whole lot of interest in a lot of these old Silver Age books. But I think I like the content. I like reading them. I like seeing the stories as they develop. So I'm still going to do that. But I'm just trying to shorten all of it so that I can get more in. So quicker tweets, more focused on factual stuff rather than opinion stuff. Because I also like for people to form their own opinion. I don't really like to say, I didn't like this or I didn't like that. I would rather say, this didn't grab me, but you might like it. This story wasn't for me, but it might be right up your alley. So I would rather just put it out there for you and let you make your own decision. So again, number 25, issue number 25 is going to probably be the last live stream of this show. And then maybe if the audience grows bigger and there's interest, maybe we can do a different kind of live stream show where we talk about maybe comic book news or new comics that came out or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah. So next week, look for this show and I'm still going to try to put it out at the same time. Maybe on yeah, probably the same time on. Well, this is Monday. Maybe I'll do it on. No, I'll probably still do it on Mondays because I do a podcast on Sundays. But yeah, so I'll put some stuff about that on Twitter and Instagram this week. But I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there. That this is it. So guys, I appreciate you watching. If you like this video or any of the other videos on my channel, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, give it a sarcastic thumbs up. If nothing else, leave a comment. Let me know if you like these Silver Age books, which ones you're reading, which ones you've read, or just anything about comics. I love comic books. I can talk about them with a room full of people or just to a camera. So that's what I'm doing. So guys, I appreciate you watching, and until the next one, I will see you later. Bye-bye.